Hey, good afternoon, Isabel. How are you today?
Hi, Lena. Thank you so much for inviting me today. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Nice and cool finally. So that's amazing.
Yes, very much needed here in Melbourne.
Yes. Yeah, Isabel, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you and what you're doing?
So my name's Isabel, or Izzy, as some may know me. I'm originally from Northern Italy and have moved to Melbourne in 2019 with my partner Winter. And I am a plant-based chef, and I also teach yoga. And I'm here in Melbourne, just living life. And I founded Brassica Catering alongside my partner, and we do catering for events and parties and retreats, and yeah, just really living life on the veg side. Always cooking, always eating, always full of plants. That's pretty much what I do.
Amazing. So when did you decided to become vegan?
Oh gosh, that's quite a while ago now. I think it's almost 6 years. So yeah, I barely remember the days where I wasn't vegan. Well, I wasn't cooking that much, so probably that's why. I remember that I've always loved vegetables a lot. I grew up not eating a lot of meat as a kid, and it was almost like a chore for me to eat meat or anything that was, even a lasagna. Some I didn't really feel like it. Like I just felt great eating fruit and vegetables. We used to make a lot of the things that we ate at home. So my mom would bake bread and make little sandwiches for me to bring to school. So I was very lucky kind of growing up in that very like homemade food environment, which I'm very, very grateful for. Um, so at some point in my life, I was, not really feeling great in my body and the things that I was eating. I wasn't living at home at the time and I wasn't cooking for myself. I was working in this hotel and I had to live in the hotel. And despite it being an amazing experience, because it was a beautiful venue and location and really great people to work with, the food was just not the kind of food that I would cook for myself or what I was used to. So it had, lots of cheese and lots of cream and butter and animal products in general. And there was just something that wasn't quite right. And I just started to watch some YouTube videos and kept just seeing these like vegan things. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know how these people like can be so vegan. And, back in the days, like there were quite some extreme examples of what being vegan was like. So I was like quite overwhelmed, but also quite curious at the same time. And I decided to try it out. So when I moved to Bristol for my master's, I decided that I wasn't going to buy any animal products. And so I did, and the world opened up. And yeah, I never looked back really. And I was like, finally, I can just eat whatever I want. And that makes me feel great. And, it was an explosion of flavors that I had never even known before. So it was really like an enriching of my culinary experience rather than how some people think it is quite restrictive, but that wasn't my experience at all. Sorry, that was probably a bit of a long
No, it's
answer to.
great. No, it's great. Yeah, no, I'm a vegetarian. Yeah, well, I'm only pretty much eat cheese, but because I found that's a bit of the hardest, which
Yes.
seems to be everyone's saying. But otherwise, yeah, if it wouldn't be for cheese, it would be possibly vegan as well. Um, yeah, so would you say pretty much since you thought about food and what you were eating, it has literally expanded your knowledge and you became even more into all sorts of different foods that you were eating rather than
Yeah.
eating meat pretty much? Because it's often the question, right, where people are like, yeah, but what do you eat? And it's like, as if meat eaters would only eat meat all day. Of course not
No.
either. Um,
Yes.
but I found the same. It's possibly more this experimenting more with different foods out of a sudden, as more as you just have a look what's there. Would you say that?
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. And, being Italian, we're quite insular in the way that we cook and that we eat. Like, we love Italian food. And obviously, you can't blame us. It's delicious. However, going vegan really pushed me to try out a lot of different cuisines, whether it was more, Indian or Thai or, any cuisine really that wasn't the standard Italian, because it had naturally some dishes that were like quite adaptable for a vegan diet. So I experimented a lot with different flavors and spices, but also things like, beans, yes, we do eat plenty of beans, but in Italy even, but there's so many beans, and it's just not something that is part of a diet that's not vegan for some reason, even though they're delicious, even though lots of traditional dishes in, what we call like the pork kitchen in Italy. So, with many parts of Italy, when there wasn't a lot of affluence and they've had to cook with very basic ingredients. And that's why we have so many legumes in the Mediterranean diet. And yet at the same time, I feel like growing up in the environment I grew up, we still didn't eat so many beans. Like, we ate chickpeas, but now I eat so many different beans, and I'm like just amazed at how many varieties there are of beans, lentils. Like, you could literally eat a different bean every day and just not get tired of it.
Yeah, I feel also Melbourne is possibly a really awesome place because you can go to different suburbs, and I feel like I always find something else that I've never seen in my entire life, because there's so many different cultures where I feel like in Europe it's still this culture of food where, because obviously I'm from Germany, so there's also the same, like it's barely you can get a coffee without a milk unless you drink it black. There's no option on almond milk or soy milk or oat milk. I think they have started a bit, but like it's not like Melbourne where it's just like it's completely normal if you order a coffee with oat milk. That one is like, yeah, cool, and so you have like choices. So I found it's possibly a really good space to be and
yeah, especially
discover.
these days. I mean, if you go to a cafe, there's probably 5 cartons of plant-based milk and then maybe 2 of dairy, which is amazing to see. And obviously when I go home, it is a little bit more difficult. But since I came here to Melbourne, my sister, who still lives in Northern Italy, has also turned vegan. And every week she's sending me all these amazing products that are coming out. And I'm like, when I actually go back home, it will be a different world, because when I left, 3 years ago, it definitely wasn't like that. So I'm very excited to be going home and just seeing how that kind of European diet also evolves to a more plant-based diet that is going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, very lucky here with the options.
So is it products she makes or products that she discovered that are coming?
Well, both, she sent me a little hamper for Christmas, and she sent me some truffle mayo and vegan chocolate. So, she's even sending me things from Italy that, I haven't had before. So it's a bit of a mix. She loves to cook. She's a very great cook. However, there's also lots of pre-made meals and, lots of ingredients. I think that's the big thing, like a tahini or peanut butter. We don't really use these in Italy. And now they're just a lot more easy to find, which is great. So I don't have to pack everything when I go home.
Yeah. So now you just catering literally for people and for different retreats. How does that look like, so people can contact you and you just become creative?
Yeah, so the reason why I decided to dedicate myself fully to plant-based catering is because I can really give the experience that I want to a particular group. I love cooking for small amounts of people. I feel like that's where I can really focus on like quality and of putting my whole heart and soul into the food that I cook. I like the experience of eating with the guests. I like the experience of creating a menu that is completely bespoke to someone's needs. And it obviously, being a yoga practitioner, it so works well that using also the knowledge that I have of my practice and of food, I kind of combine the two things so that when people do go on a health retreat or a yoga retreat, they know that when they get my food, it's going to be delicious and nourishing and fueling for their body and their mind for whatever practice they're doing while they're on retreat. So I really like to have the conversation with the retreat hosts. What do they need? What do they like? And just really create the most beautiful food that is good for everyone, and the environment and the animals. And it's just like a whole experience that I like to provide, with also some special little things that I like to do. I like to be very creative with my food, so it's not always just super simple salads, of course. So I really like to experiment, and I'm constantly developing my skills, and I like to take these skills into whatever event I'm catering for, just to give something a little bit special, because there's still a lot of stigma around vegan food, unfortunately, and I'm there to defy the stigma and show that everybody can enjoy a plant-based diet and be very happy and very full.
So do you just do you also make things yourself, like for example cheeses or butters or different relishes, or do you just put things together?
No, I make everything myself. So I don't buy any processed meat. There's so much vegan junk food these days. I don't think that as a personal chef, I need to tap into that area at all. So I make my own bread. I ferment my own cheeses. I make my own nut butters and spreads and granola and, whatever you can think of. I really like, because I come from that, as I mentioned before, environment of making things from scratch. It is something that's very healing for me. It's a kind of meditation when I do these things, especially when I do work with dough. I love getting my hands dirty. I don't like buying things off the shelves. It's never as good, sorry, but it's just not the same as when you're making it from scratch and you're taking the ingredient from the market and you transform it into something beautiful for people to eat. I think that really is the reason why people should consider things like a personal or a private chef, because that's the experience that you want. Otherwise, everybody's able to assemble something nice with products that you can buy, but really, where is the difference? And I really think it does come from the making whatever you're making from scratch. And just obviously it's not always possible. If there's a very big event, it's a different story, but as I said, I do prefer to cater for small amounts of people for that precise reason, because I want to be able to make everything myself, even though it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding.
So when we go a bit back to your story, so obviously you were so fortunate to grow up in a country where people make a lot of things, but also in your family, people were making things. But what do you recommend to someone that, for example, would love to become vegan or even vegetarian, or as well, cater for themselves and start to learn step by step, maybe how to, maybe not the most difficult thing in the world necessarily right away, like let's just ferment some sauerkraut or something, but like, small steps of not what you said before, buying a processed patties and falafel and things, but how you can maybe learn and teach yourself to make some easy meals.
Yes, that's a very good point. I think some people find it quite confronting to change to a vegan diet because it seems like they need to change everything. Whereas really, I think it's about, especially at the start, it's about taking little steps towards changing something. So you can still make your favorite recipes, just substituting the animal product for a non-animal product. For example, if you like making curries and you usually make a chicken and vegetable curry, can you take away the chicken and just add some tofu instead, or some tempeh, or whatever other ingredient you think might be a bit different, but that is still kind of substituting something that you already know. Beware of vegan cheeses if they're not fermented. I think it's one of the things where some people also get a little bit discouraged because they're like, it's not the same. No, it's not the same. So after a while that you have already adapted a more plant-based diet, your taste buds will also adapt. And then things like normal store-bought cheese might be more appealing, but at the start, I would take the things that you know and you love and just substituting a few of the ingredients a few times a week, and then let your body and your taste buds adjust. And really, if you think that if you can cook 1 or 2 more plant-based meals each week, the way I like to construct a meal that is very nourishing is to make, a classic Buddha bowl. Everybody can do that. There's not a lot of work involved. You can put in as many ingredients as you like. And I always think to put in a grain. So a grain could be, anything from rice to quinoa to buckwheat, whatever grain you prefer, some sort of legume or beans, which could be chickpeas, black beans, some sort of raw vegetable. So for example, lettuce or shredded carrots, something that you enjoy in your regular diet, something cooked, again, any vegetable that you enjoy, but cooked, just to have that like variety of nutrients as well, because some nutrients get better absorbed by the body when they're cooked versus raw. So just finding something that's very colorful and making your plate really, really nice and full and colorful, and enjoy what you're eating and make a really nice sauce. Tahini sauce is always my favorite. Everybody loves it. It's so easy to make. You don't need a lot of ingredients, just some tahini, lemon juice, and salt and water. That's very basic, and it really can take your bowl to a next level. And just incorporating one of those meals will make you feel good. Take it easy. If you are looking at transitioning to a more plant-based diet, there's a lot of fiber involved. So if you go too hard at the start, you might feel a little bit bloated or gassy. That's, it's a reality of changing the gut microbiome to something that's more used to a plant-based diet. So taking baby steps, I think, is really the best way to go.
Yeah, amazing. I think that's really valuable what you shared, because it's I feel like often when I talk with people, a lot of people are not really knowing where to start to change anything, or even how many people don't even know how to prepare anything, even if it's with meat or without. So it's just so good to start. And I think it's also like time, a lot of people who just work all day, and then it's there's so much out there you can take away or in the supermarket that you can fastly eat, that when in fact it makes you so much healthier. And I think what you said as well, just at the start, like having this connection with the food, because I think if you actually cook it, but also if you think about what you're eating and you eat it, it becomes also like a more beautiful part of your body, and your like helps really to keep your body healthy and strong, and gives it the nutrition the body needs. So
I mean, if you make it with your hands, you can't beat your own hands. Like, you're putting the love into the food. It's not some sort of machine in a warehouse making your food. If you're concerned about not having enough time, find 2 hours in your week. That's quite achievable for most people, I would say, just 2 hours to just prepare something in advance. You can freeze things, you can cook a batch of grain and have it for 3 days with different vegetables. So that's already, with the base of a grain and some sort of beans and then different vegetables, you can create very different meals. And just by changing the spices, you can bring a lot of variety. Sometimes you might be able to use Mexican spices or Indian spices, or one day you just use herbs. And don't stress about how am I going to cook. You can roast, you can boil, you can steam, you can pan fry, you can air fry. There are so many things you can do with the vegetables. Just pick one. Don't even overthink it. It's going to taste nice if you have some different textures and flavors. So just cook with your heart, I think, even if you're just starting out, and experiment. Really use this as an opportunity to get to know what you like and how you can explore more of the food. It's a beautiful journey. I think it's for a lot of people who haven't cooked a lot before, they share a similar experience of really being so much more excited about food, about cooking, about wanting to share the food with other people, because that you're spreading love and you're making other people feel great as well. I think it's a very rewarding experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to love this as well. Hang on a second. I just realized I need to plug my laptop in. Just the yeah, that is amazing. So I wanted to come back to your story as well of like, so you studied literature and then you started the journey of yoga and becoming a vegan chef. So how did you come to this journey, and also how did this has changed your life so far? Because obviously at one point there must have been a key point where obviously your awareness changed to a different
Yes,
point.
yes, definitely. I've always been someone who likes many different things. I had so many different jobs in my life and was never quite satisfied. Never really found what I wanted to do. And, I finished my master's that I did in Bristol, and I loved studying what I did. I love literature. I love culture. It's something that I'm really passionate about, but I wasn't really sure where to take it. And, I wasn't going to go into teaching, and I wasn't really sure what to do. And then I moved to Australia to do my working holiday visa, and I was just cooking more and more, and my friends were eating my food and they're like, oh, you should be doing this, you should be working in a kitchen. And so I kind of started thinking, well, why not? Why can't I do something that I'm passionate about and that is also fun? So I went back to Bristol and I did a diploma in cooking so that I could have a little bit more of a solid base. And then slowly from there, I started working in a cafe and then worked in a restaurant and really just pursued that passion. At the same time, I also started to be more serious about my yoga practice. And I think at some point, these two things really started to come together because I was becoming a lot more interested in the ethical side of veganism. So it wasn't just a diet anymore. It was about animal rights. It was about the environment and a connection to myself and like a better relationship with myself. And that went parallel with my yoga practice as well. So the deeper I was going into my practice, the deeper I felt connected to myself and to what I was doing, and also to the food that I was making for myself and others. And after working in a restaurant for a little while, I still, realized that it was quite actually going in a different direction of where I wanted to go, because being a yoga practitioner, I wake up very early in the morning to practice, and it's a non-negotiable for me. That's how I start my day. And working very late nights wasn't really serving my lifestyle. So I had to find a different solution. And I started going on yoga retreats with one of my favorite yoga teachers in Bristol. And I was cooking for her guests, and I really found home in what I was doing, because I was like, this is just exactly what I want my food to be like, to cook for people who want to feel good and who share my same values, and also not having to live that very stressful, very ambitious, very competitive environment that is a commercial kitchen that I just wasn't interested in. I don't have any ambition of owning a big restaurant or becoming this amazing popular chef. That's not what I'm about. I want to do something that is fulfilling for me, and just sharing the joy of a plant-based diet. Obviously, also this meant that I had to take some steps back as well, because obviously doing catering is a completely different thing, and you need to find your own clients, and it's a much harder environment. So I've had to adjust and modify and do other jobs as well in order to be able to survive. But what I really discovered even throughout COVID is that no matter how many steps back I take, the fire of my passion is alive in me, and there's not going to be the day where I'm not going to keep doing what I do. It might change over time, it might be in different ways, but I really believe in living in accordance to my values, and that is just what I'm going to do. Also, there have been quite some lifestyle changes, with my practice and with the way I was eating. So, at the start, I was still going out a lot and partying a lot. And at some point, that's also going to have some friction with that lifestyle, because then you don't feel good in your body. And I feel like when you've had a really, good diet for some years, you really notice when your body isn't feeling great. And also practicing yoga, you notice when your body isn't feeling great as well, for different reasons, right? So you're so much more connected to yourself through food, through what you put into your body. And so that was also a different adjustment, right, that I had to take if I wanted to live in accordance to my values and to who I really am, which isn't always easy, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the right thing to do. So it's embracing whatever comes my way. And I don't know exactly where that's going to take me, but I'm, going to stay on this path, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think it's also you live your authenticity if you practice what you also share, or the sign, what you practice, what you preach. I think is really accurate, because I think it's important, if you really believe in what you're doing and you're sharing it and you be authentic with it. That's an important point if you want to change something for the better, also with others.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you really need to, as you said, do what you embody. Like, you need to embody something, and people will also see that. So if you can just see if someone's not authentic, or if you're saying something and then doing something completely opposite, then it's just, there's a mismatch that is just going to be perceivable, and ultimately it's going to be very counterproductive in any goal that you want to achieve, not only for yourself but for the things that you say you believe in. So if you believe in a kinder, better world, then you need to take the steps to make that happen, even if it is just in your little bubble.
Yeah. And how has it changed your personal life? Like, once you became aware of it, obviously you went towards different steps of becoming a vegan chef, but also becoming a yoga teacher, and so kind of the journey continues, right?
Oh yes, it's only just started. It's really, I feel
Yeah,
like I'm
really
barely
young.
putting my toes into the water.
Yeah,
But that's the beautiful thing, because I'm in no rush to do anything, because this is where I'm going. I'm just trying to embrace every step the way that it's coming to me, and I'm not trying to particularly get anywhere, because we've seen in COVID that really, like, planning anyway really doesn't always work out. So I'm just really taking it as it comes and just doing the things that I enjoy. And I believe that if you do things that you're passionate about, then the rest will work itself out. But yes, my life has become a lot quieter in a sense, but I like that.
yeah.
For sure. I'm feeling pretty good and content to a more quiet life, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. It becomes a journey of I found, once you possibly, yeah, rising awareness for yourself, but then also once you become to ask questions and you ask yourself, why am I doing this, and you start to change, then it's like a never-ending journey of you are the Pandora box that's opening for yourself. And yeah, I totally understand. It's like I sometimes have a glass of sparkling, and I already don't drink a lot, and then depending on what the alcohol is, you know, I feel like I can't handle it. I feel so terrible even after a class. I was like, what is going on with my body? So I can actually handle better like a beer, you know. Don't know whether it might be because the sugar content is less in beer and it's just a bit more pure brewed than obviously sparkling or wine has possibly a lot more well, definitely sparkling has a lot of sugar content, and I feel so tired after. And it's interesting, I have felt this even as a teenager. I never liked drinking because I felt always so tired after a glass or something, and then got really melancholic. And so, you know, once it doesn't feel well, it's just like, why would you do it? It's just
and to be honest, I still fall into the trap, right? Because you want to be social, you want to be like partake with what everybody else is doing. You know, sometimes we just get dragged into it, and I'm like, I might have a drink or two, and then the next day, like, I just feel it. And I've never been good with alcohol either. I've never been a big drinker, so usually, you know, even in my big drinking days, it was like 3 pints, and I was not in a good way. And my previous housemates can testify for that. I would be sick for a long time. And I'm very happy that now I don't get to that point, you know, and I rarely have a glass of wine. And if I do, then it's maybe one, maybe two, if it's a special occasion. And of course, sometimes I do go out and have a cocktail because I'm feeling like a cocktail. But it's become very rare. And I definitely don't think I want to get drunk. That's never on my mind. It's never the purpose of me engaging with any, you know, activity like that. So it's always trying to still, you know, enjoy the things. But I'm realizing more and more that I should just like stop completely. But it's another step that, you know, I'm sure it'll happen in time. Also being Italian, we do like to have a glass of wine with dinner. So if I ever go, you know, out with my family, I will probably still enjoy that glass of wine. And I don't think that's going to be a problem at all, because my attitude isn't one of wanting to get away from myself or escape anything. I'm just literally, you know, enjoying the drink for what it is. And also, yes, very rarely, because, you know, in the morning I gotta get up and I gotta practice. So
yeah, I think it's possibly more like as well why we do things, you know. It's the same with eating. I think it's just all, well, in fact, all we are is possibly all habits that we either way put on ourselves or learn from someone, and they can all be changed to feel better. And I mean, of course, like, no one is perfect, and everyone should also enjoy themselves. And if you enjoy a glass of wine, I think, you know, that's sometimes also good. But if you know that your body can't handle it, or it's not really good, or you don't even feel all night good after, then it's also good to just change it. And, you know, and I think it's, I sometimes have conversations also with people, because I'm a massage therapist, and it's like, people feel really social pressured by doing things, like whether it's standing up for themselves of what they're eating, or it seems like if you're sick and you have an allergy, that is totally acceptable. But if it's your own choice, you have to defend it somehow or not. And I feel it's the same with drinking. It's such a social acceptance that it's it's, you know, it's I can understand that possibly in some circles you're in, it's just hard to stand up for yourself and stay strong and be like, well, but I'm just not wanting to, and I can also be myself and have a good time without being on anything here. So yeah, it's a really good point.
And honoring that is sometimes very challenging, because you also don't want to engage in those conversations all the time. I don't want to have to justify myself, you know, but that also ties into what kind of people you are surrounding yourself with. And I think that also changes, right? Because it's very hard if you're in a particular environment and you change to still be in that environment and not get tempted or not feel pressured to, you know, be like everybody else, or unless it's a constant fight, and that doesn't feel good either. You don't always want to fight, and people get very you know, emotional in conversations that bring out something that other people might also see, or deep down know that it's a behavior that they maybe should refrain from as well, but they don't want to they're not ready to see that, and so they get it gets a very confronting to have that conversation, and then it's easier to attack or to pressure someone into being like everybody else rather than accepting that and being like, great, good for you, you know, and then think about what they do. It's a very challenging thing to do.
I think it's possibly also because I feel sometimes people around might also feel that they have kind of a feeling maybe triggered by it, or you know, sometimes people also want to change but they can't, and then they're just like, yeah, but you should all be like me, so just, you know, join in rather than being the person that I might want to be. Definitely. Rather than embracing it and might just ask the right questions to learn from someone else and maybe, you know, get some knowledge, which is so valuable. So yeah, so you also do yoga, which I think obviously, I guess it has also changed you into different directions, right? What has done yoga for you? How did you embrace this path of liking yoga? Or
to be honest, like I never really liked moving my body. So when I was living in this famous hotel that I mentioned before, and I had a lot of free time where I couldn't really do much, I started to take these yoga classes that were offered to the guests of the hotel. And for the first time, I was like, wow, I actually didn't hate moving my body. And for someone who has failed physical education class, that's a big step forward. And so really that was the gateway for me to start practicing. And, you know, I didn't have a very good relationship with my body. So, you know, it was a way to get me moving and to, you know, just get a little bit of exercise in. That's the way that I saw it at the time. Obviously now it's completely changed, and I think when you practice for a number of years, whatever you do, really the initial motivation is quite different to what keeps you doing a certain thing. I've also noticed that I was always someone who avoided a lot of uncomfortable feelings, but I thought that I was above my feelings. It was really funny because I prided myself on never getting angry. I was like, oh yeah, everything is just passing through me, you know, and I'm like, okay, you know, great. And at some point this didn't work anymore, and just everything just started coming down on me in like a really strong way. And I actually realized that I was just bypassing my feelings for whatever they were. And then at the same time that I was taking my yoga practice more seriously. So I was using it as a tool to be more connected to myself and to get to know myself and my patterns of behavior and why I was doing certain things and what brought me onto the mat and why I wanted to do specific poses, or, you know, like how the practice was really for me at the start, a way to feed my ego, to be completely honest with you, because I've always been very flexible. So I've always been able to do a lot of things, right? So having that like experience of thinking that you're good at something definitely does something to your sense of self. So navigating that and trying to understand that what I was doing didn't have to be about that, but it was about something that goes way deeper than that. At the same time, I had the realization that there were a lot of things in my life that I hadn't processed, and the anxiety that I was feeling really was a result of me being disconnected from myself and from my feelings, even though I wasn't aware of it for a very long time. You know, I was just living life and doing yoga and feeling great. But as my teacher says, you know, it's when everything falls apart that's where you see where your yoga is, right? So where's your practice now when everything is falling and crumbling and you're feeling like, I can't feel all these feelings? So really that's been the turning point for me. And I had been practicing yoga for years, you know, but until you hit that certain point where you really understand. And I've also had a lot of injuries in my body that have been, you know, quite huge obstacles, but in a way they've been a blessing in disguise, because that's also been an opportunity for me to really inquire more about why I was practicing. And that has also, you know, completely changed the way that I see my practice now. And that's been, you know, another really beautiful journey. And yet again, I am just at the start, so I'm, you know, very much looking forward to seeing where it brings me, even if it's not always pretty, but it is exactly what it's meant to be, right? It's good, it's bad, it's, you know,
life.
yes.
Yeah. So did you do you mean injuries through yoga, or just injuries that you just got through other things? What was that
It was
related
a
to?
bit of a mixture. It's not, I wouldn't say through yoga, like nothing ever happened in my practice that injured me, but I get a lot of repetitive stress injuries. I think it's a combination of really like being quite flexible and not knowing what to do with my body and just doing things in a way that I probably wasn't prepared to do with enough stability. So I have quite loose joints, and when you do certain things, so I do the same practice pretty much every day, and when you do that over a number of years, if there's any imbalance in the body, so if you do have a shoulder that is particularly mobile and you do a certain movement over years, that will create some problems. So I've had a lot of those throughout the years, and little things in my joints, and I have big problems with my knees. And all these things are last for a very long time. So I've never had the injury where you fall down during a handstand and you know your ankle is broken for a couple of weeks. So it's all things that are going on and have been going on for years, and they're just going to stick with me because of the way that my body is genetically. And of course also the things that I do probably have influenced a little bit, doing things not right. That's why when I practice, or even when I am teaching, I am very like careful to try and really see the person that I have in front of me and what they need, rather than just making them do things that look good. So, and yeah, I like to work a lot on stability at the moment, just because, you know, there's a lot of yoga out there that is focusing on the flexibility, but I think that there are so many people out there who don't know how to provide stability in their body. So I think, out of my own experience, I like to share the little that I know, so that maybe someone like me will know and maybe doesn't have to go through all this.
Yeah. And when you said that after all these years practicing yoga, you finally found that you were so disconnected with your emotions. So did you change your yoga practice from then on, or did you also got yourself some different help to help you trying to connect with yourself again, or what did you do then?
Well, therapy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's certain times in your life where, you know, just the practice isn't enough. You need to be guided. But I felt like actually the things that my teacher was saying and the things that my therapist was saying were actually the same thing, but in completely different ways. So, you know, my teacher was seeing it from a yoga or spiritual perspective, call it what you want. And my like therapist was coming from the scientific point, but really it was like about being able to stay with whatever was going on and to not escape the feelings, to really like feel what you need to do and not try to resolve everything in my head. So I'm a very big overthinker. You know, every situation I try to see it from all different angles and perspective, and it's like your mind is like it's a minefield really, in this sense. So I really had to learn how to step back and to just get back into my body, and that also has translated into how I am practicing on my mat, as in, you know, how is my breath? Do I have to rush through my practice, or can I actually just take my time? And if I have only an hour instead of an hour and a half, will I cram everything that I usually do into that hour? Or do I allow my practice to suit whatever I need in that moment and do a little bit less? So that was a big lesson for me. I'm always someone who wants to do more and more and more and push myself and push myself. And obviously at some point you're going to crash. So for me, it was a lot about stripping
Listening.
my practice back. And I'm lucky that I did, because, I never even liked staying in shavasana. Some people love it, and for me it was terrible. It was, after 2 minutes I wanted to be out of the room. And what does that say about my emotional and psychological health? Like, if you're not able to relax, then
Shavasana is just lying down in
yes, it's just
meditation.
lying down on your back, eyes closed, nothing moving, mind still, or just completely trying to let go of anything that's in your body and your mind. And I found it very challenging. I would never stay for more than a couple of minutes. And the first time that my teacher, my current teacher, saw me, he immediately noticed, right? So it was just like I was an open book, and he's like, okay, this is your practice. And I'm so glad that I had to go through all those hurdles, because now I need at least 10 to 15 minutes, and I actually love it, and I don't want to move. And I'm like, that is the biggest transformation of my practice. It's not doing more poses or anything like that. It's actually enjoying what I'm doing, even if it hurts, even if my body has the things that are in my body, and just accepting that, and not trying to fight it, not trying to push through pain, but just being with what is, and just accepting the situation, and just surrendering really to what the moment brings. That's definitely been, and still is, a very big lesson. And I'm sure that there's going to be so many more. But yeah, I'm just excited now rather than worried, which is a big step.
Yeah, diving in your own feelings and emotions and getting to know yourself more, that sounds like, which is great. I think a lot of people go through this, but it just pops up in different occasions, and I think if it pops up in something like that you can't lie down for 10 minutes on a mat, and you have a supportive surroundings, that's possibly the most beautiful space to be in, to be held and supported, to discover what you have to look at in your own self.
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there a message you would like to share for the audience, or something that you would like to bring into this world that everyone needs to hear through your life, that you've learned? So yeah,
I think it's funny that I say I think, because actually what I want to say is less thinking, more feeling. Whatever you do in your life, less thinking, more feeling. So really, we are constantly bombarded with so many things, and our culture that's influencing us, and social media, and our history, our personality. There's so many things that are just constantly coming at us, and that can influence the way that we move our body, the way that we see our body, the way that we eat. So even in in nutrition, in what you put into your body, it's not just about what feels good, because you eat because that's what you've been taught, that's what you've always eaten for Christmas. So there's a lot of cultural norms that also come into play when you feed yourself. So even then, can you take the time and have a meal, and then just feel your body, and what is it doing to your body, and how you're feeling after? Are you lethargic? Are you energized? Are your internal organs working properly? So really, again, don't think too much about vegan, non-vegan, and we need protein, and we need to eat meat. We've always eaten meat. All those things that might be coming into someone's mind. Just more feeling and less thinking. I think that will be the one.
I think the gut is the feeling as well.
Good, yes.
Which means if you put a lot of not awesome things in, you might not feel as much as if it's good nurtured. Yeah. Is there anything else you want to share that I haven't asked you?
I think that we're still in January. So if you're thinking about it, join the January challenge. There's lots of recipes out there. There's lots of resources. I don't talk about intentions for the new year, but I'm just here to ask, can you try something different, even just for once, and see what happens?
Amazing. We're good finishing words. And I will also, if people want to be taught from you how to cook vegan, or want to have a catering event cooked by you, or would like to learn more about yoga, I'm just gonna link all the links you want me to link in the show notes and wherever I'm going to post it. And then people can go on the journey with you.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to answer any questions. Just contact me on social media or via email. If you have a question, if you don't know where to start, I'm always happy to answer. I'm here to help in whatever way I can. So feel free to reach out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your openness, for your open words, for sharing your story, for sharing your vulnerability as well. It's really, yeah, a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thanks, Lena, for giving me this opportunity and inviting me here. It's been a pleasure, and it was very nice to meet you as well.
Thank you.